I get a chuckle out of that every time they say Home Depot Coach of the Year. I don't even know what a screwdriver does. I don't know if I've been in a Home Depot. Been a coach for over 35 years. I don't think I fixed anything. I've fixed a couple of football teams. I know I've done that. We hope that we have provided you, I know we have, because I know my staff. I've got an outstanding coaching staff, and they love coaching, they love teaching, they love talking ball. Chip could stay up here until midnight. It probably would need some beer for everybody, but they love to coach and teach, and they love to talk football. And so I hope that we've been able to provide you from a X and O standpoint, from a teaching standpoint, some of the things that maybe you can take with you and apply them at your schools. But I want to talk about that right there, because that kind of transcends everything. When we talk about win, and I've got it in an acronym form for what's important right now. And when we talk about it in terms of winning, brace yourselves now. Winning is better than not winning. So let's all start with that premise. And we're going to take shape and form from there. But maybe in a little bit of a different form than maybe you were thinking. Because when we talk about winning, we always think about the scoreboard. That's the first thing that we're going to talk about, right? Coach is going to talk about how we're going to get the ball in the end zone, how we're going to keep them out of the end zone, how we're going to be efficient in special teams. That's not what I'm going to talk about. I prefaced it by saying I hope that you were able to listen carefully and maybe take down some things from our coaches relative to the X's and O's in the game. I don't spend time on those things. I'm focused much more on what's important now. And what's important right now in terms of winning is winning every day. Winning as it relates to everything that we do. Winning for me, I want to be able to win with my junior son, who's a junior in high school. I want to win with him today in my relationship with him. I want to be able to win with my relationship with my wife and my kids. So they'll say maybe in 15 years, man, I want to come back and spend some time with mom and dad. So when we get into this, it's going to apply to your football program. But we're really talking about winning every day. When I put the acronym, what's important now, I'm referring to the young men that are in your charge today. And the young men in your charge today, what's important now to them? It's not about a goal anymore. It's about winning and focusing on these three particular areas. Because this is what they're starving for. As your mentor, as your coach, on a day-to-day basis, they're looking for a relationship. And you need to win in that relationship. If you want to be successful as a football coach, as a teacher, as a father, as a husband, you've got to win in building those relationships. And we'll talk in general terms on how that needs to take shape. But first of all, winning starts with player relationships. The second thing you need to understand, it's player performance. Probably one of the most misunderstood terms when it comes to athletics is player performance. not player preparation. There's a difference between preparation and performance, and I'll get into that in a moment. Player performance, not player preparation. And third, player results. Those are the three things that you should be focused on in terms of what's important right now on a day-to-day basis. If you want to have success, you have to embrace those things on a day-to-day basis and have to really look at yourself and say, is that what will motivate me on a day-to-day basis? Will that excite me to get up early in the morning and work late at night? Player relationships, player performance, and player results, not wins and losses. So in many ways, this is process over outcome. And getting your head wrapped around process over outcomes is going to be what's important right now. So let's delve into this a little bit. Let's talk about relationships, first of all. In a winning organization, in a winning culture, and developing those relationships that are so important in building today, you have to start by earning and gaining the trust of those under your charge. So, gaining and earning the trust of your players. Sounds easy, right? Sounds easy. When I started out, my head coach in high school, I had his immediately because he was a former lieutenant colonel in the Navy. You can imagine what that was like. It was come to attention immediately. It was old school from that perspective. I didn't have much of a relationship with him. It was, this is how we're doing it. There was no questions asked, and we did it that way. I learned about discipline. I learned about attention to detail, and they were excellent things that I needed to learn about at my age. But it wasn't a relationship, which is what's important now, if you follow me. And that's really what the genesis of this topic is about what's important now. So gaining and earning the trust of your players. How do you get this? How do you get this? Well, first thing is you got to be you. You got to be you. In my world, with our young men, 18 to 21-year-olds, they'll sniff out a phony in a heartbeat. If you're not real and you're not authentic, they'll see you coming from a mile away. You got to be you. If you wear your hat with a flat brim, wear a flat brim. If you wear it backwards, wear it backwards. If you wear a shirt and tie, wear a shirt and tie. But be you, and be you all the time. Don't be somebody else. That consistency and approach will help build trust with the young men in your charge, whomever it is, on a day-to-day basis. And that won't just be your players, that will be everybody that you come in contact with when it comes earning trust. Be authentic, be real, and be consistent. That will help you work towards gaining trust. The second thing, and look, I can't help you with this, okay? I can help you with the first one. If you're wobbling a little bit on this, tighten up, right? You know what I mean? Tighten up, be you, all right? Be you. But the second one, you gotta know your shit, okay? You gotta know what you're talking about. Your logic's gotta be on point. You have to be able to stand in front of the group. You've got to be able to talk and not tell a story, but you got to get to the point. And you got to make your point. And you've got to be able to do that to gain the attention and the trust of the group that you're working with on a day-to-day basis. Now look, here at Notre Dame, you got to understand, our guys are in a classroom with some of the finest professors in the world. In the world. They don't go to a different classroom. They're not taking online classes. So they're sitting in the same classroom as everybody else. So they're bouncing around, and then they come to us. If my coaches are not on point, if they don't know exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it, they're not going to get the trust of our players. They better know what they're talking about. They better be detailed and organized in their plan. And their logic better be true if you want to gain their trust. So I can't help you with that one quite as much. You got to work on that, and that's something that you do by coming to these clinics and checking yourself and being humble and doing all the work that you do. Put yourself in their shoes. You got to have empathy. In other words, you got to show that you truly care about them. Look, if it's just about you, and that will show itself very early, they'll know that. But if you genuinely care about your guys, they'll see that come through. And they'll trust you. They'll trust you. So be you, be real. Know what you're talking about. Get to your point. And have empathy. If you put those three things together, you're going to gain the trust of the room. So who wouldn't want to start on day one with an understanding that you can win and have a great leg up on working to winning? Because I got the trust of my group. Pretty powerful. Good place to start. But it's not the end point. Because then you got to get those guys that trust you, you got to get them to do something else for you. And the next thing you got to get them to do is you got to get the car running. You got to get the car running. And that means when we talk about car, we talk about you've got to motivate them now. The next key part in relationships, after you've got their trust, you've got to be able to motivate them to be the best version of themselves. Makes sense, right? So we like to talk about the car. You are responsible now for the engine in that car. And it starts with find out what they're good at. That's your job. Don't paint with a broad brush. Find out what they're competent at and build on their competency and praise them for that. There's nothing more motivating than hearing somebody tell me about my great qualities. I can tell you that right now. Without getting a big head. I was doing a clinic talk last night, and not clinic talk, I was doing an alumni event last night in Chicago. And somebody said in the introduction, the beloved head coach at Notre Dame. I laughed. I said, nobody's ever called me the B word. They've called me the A word quite a few times. I've never got the B word. But my point being is that competency and then hearing what they're capable of is absolutely crucial. Creating that positive tone because you're responsible for their motivation. Autonomy. Give them the opportunity to make choices. the buy-in, right? That autonomy. Not, listen, it's my way or the highway. Do this or my way or the highway. It's make a choice. Make a choice. If you do these things, you will have success. Give them the opportunity to buy in. That autonomy, put it on them. Make it their decision. And when they get that freedom of choice, and think of it in the workplace, right? You never truly get in your own business or wherever you work, you truly never get everybody to buy in unless you allow them to weigh in, right? When you allow them to weigh in and give you feedback, then they truly buy in. It's the same concept here, is that you have to allow that autonomy. And when you do that, you gain that, for me, that synergy within the group, that motivation that you're looking for. And the last thing is relatedness, a purpose. Why are we all doing this? What's our why? Why are we doing this? Relatedness to the group. We're in it together. What binds us all together? I'm not doing it just for me. It's a purpose. You're doing it for the guy next to you. We don't want to let him down. That, you hear about it all the time, the SEALs and the Marines, and that relatedness that they never want to let their brothers down. That's that relatedness that you want to create within your group. That is how you can motivate at a high level. So you're responsible for that engine in the car. Find out what they're good at and praise that. Competency. Make sure that when we talk about autonomy, you're giving them the opportunity to buy in, giving them choices. Hey, if you do these things, you're going to see this result. And then a purpose, a relatedness together. Trust coupled with motivation. I think I got a pretty good shot with those two things when it comes to relationships. So let's move forward then. The next part. Number 3 in relationships. Creating a positive environment to see that happens is a very simple statement that we use, is demanding but never demeaning. Set a high standard. There's nothing wrong. It's God, country, and Notre Dame here. I don't know, that's a pretty high standard. Last time I checked. You can set the highest of standards. You can be demanding, but you can never cross that line of demeaning. Once it becomes demeaning, it becomes personal, you'll lose the trust, and you'll lose the motivation. All the things that are magic when you get those two working for you. So I put that in there because you can be demanding at a high level, but you can't cross the line to demeaning. Okay, performance. Performance. And I spent a little time on this just so we were clear that we weren't talking about preparation, because this is the most misunderstood concept, is preparation versus performance. So what is this? Readiness. Sympathetic versus parasympathetic. The ability to perform at its highest level requires what? Requires what? Look, if I stay up all night, right? I've got your trust. There's no doubt that you're clear on how to motivate. But if I'm fatigued and I'm not rested, can I perform at a high level? I cannot, right? I can't perform. Your preparation could be terrific. You could be doing a great job in the weight room. You could be lifting the hell out of the universe. You could be stronger. You could be faster. But if you got 4 hours sleep and you're eating cheese pizza at 2 o'clock in the morning, then your performance will suffer. And we seem to have lost track of this. And again, I know that it's a bit more decentralized from a high school perspective because they're not under your care, right? They go home to mom and dad, or maybe they just go to her mom. Maybe they don't go to mom or dad. Maybe they go to, you don't know where they go, right? That's the reality of it. That's the truth of it. But it's important to understand that this matters and it affects performance. And we gloss over this too quickly. And we move on to, why aren't we playing well? I don't get it. Well, it's this idea and this concept of, well, the readiness of your football team is being affected. And the readiness is that they're not prepared because of outside influences. And so for us, it's a matter of, is their central nervous system debilitated? It's that simple. Sympathetic, right? Which is fear or flight, right? Fear or flight. I mean, I'm turned on, right? I'm ready to go. Parasympathetic, where I'm resting, right? You know, that, to me, that's the whole thing. Where am I in that? And you have to be able to tune into where your guys are. How do I get them in a place where I can settle them down before competition, before performance? Let me just give you some really easy ideas. We have something that is a lot more in depth that we have to deal with. In 1 month's time here at Notre Dame, from October 27th to November 24th, we flew 10,640 miles. 10,640 miles. 3 plane trips. Twice to the West Coast. Twice to the West Coast. In that same period of time, Alabama took no plane trips and traveled total 426 miles. So, we better be on our stuff when it comes to performance. We better know what we're doing. All 4 teams that played in the playoffs, there was only 1 team that took 3 flights. There was only 1 team that went over 750 miles in travel. That was Notre Dame, of the 4 teams. Clemson and Oklahoma being the other 2. That's our life. We live it. So I know what I'm talking about relative to performance. So we've got the gamut. We have GPS that tracks our player load during the week. And if we feel that that player load has, in fact, disrupted our players to where their central nervous system might be affected, then we use omega wave to test their central nervous system, which gives us variable heart rate and tells us whether they're depleted, which then allows us to put them in a float tank, or massage, or meditation, or yoga, to get that parasympathetic response so they can start to recover. So listen, I'm not asking you for all that. Here's what I'm asking. Know your team and whether they are recovering during the week, getting ready for performance. There's a big difference between preparation and performance. That's the heart of what I'm talking about. and the ability to understand that sometimes we get carried away with preparation and forget about performance. And you need your guys at an optimal level for performance. Now, it's like anything else, right? You don't want to not practice and wrap them in bubble wrap, because we have it the other way too. I'm checking GPS numbers and I'm seeing that our defensive linemen are not getting enough player load and speed. We got to move them, and we got to get them with a bigger load, and we got to move them faster during the week. So it can go the other way, because we don't want them to be too parasympathetic where they're just grazing all week, because then they can't meet their peak performance on Saturday. Does everybody follow me on this? I'm trying to just lay down the principle of preparation versus performance and how this gets glossed over and misunderstood. So how can you deal with it? Simple ways, right? Muscle soreness, right? We have a million ways and modalities to handle it. Tart cherry juice. Doesn't cost very much. You can get it at Costco. Great for inflammation and soreness for the big guys. Post-practice, chocolate milk. Great for recovery purposes. Things of that nature. You will see an uptick in your performance levels as you're preparing, because we are creatures of habit, right? We're preparing, right? We're to the level of being anal about it, and we forget about how we can get them to peak performance levels. Performance is what we're looking for, and how do we get our group there, right? So if you're worried about a guy that might be turned on all the time, and he's hyperactive, and you want him to relax. Remember the days of laying on the gym floor with the lights out and that visualization technique, right? That's a great opportunity to get the young men to relax and breathe. Breathing is the best way to get that parasympathetic response system to kick on and get them to recover. So there's some simple ways. They don't cost anything. But the cost is winning. Because what's important now is that you have to be in tune with how you can get the best performance from your teams. And these are some of the ways to do that. So when we talk about readiness, it's your job to get your team ready. And it's not just about offense versus defense, running plays. That's part of it. There's a much bigger piece to this as well. The last piece is, how do you read the gas tank? How do you know if they're tired? How do you know, right? And when to fill it. I was talking to Dr. Selking, who's our mental performance coach here at Notre Dame, and she has a great way of talking to our players about it. You know, like, for example, who fills their gas tank here in their car when it's half full? Not many people, right? If you raise your hand, okay, maybe I'll buy it. It's like our athletes, right? They start to gas up when they're almost out of gas. And here's what I'm telling you. You got to be on it before they're out of gas, right? You got to be on it when they're like half full and read the signs. You can't wait till they're out of gas. So it's being aware of your players when they can't turn off, or there's soreness, Or man, he looks a step slow today. Or he's not moving like he should be. And there's some simple fixes for that. It's about performance. And so I had a great one just the other day, Troy Pride, our starting corner. And we did a CNS on him before practice. His CNS was so low, his central nervous system readout on a mega wave was like a 3. Like, that's ridiculous. His HRV, which is his heart rate, was his variable heart rate, was 80, which means, I mean, he was like not even close to being able to recover. And he had a million things going on. I put him in the float tank. The next day, he's up to a 6, where he was able to relax, shut off, do some things. And I'm not here to sell float tanks, okay? I'm saying there are modalities here, there are modalities to get guys to get into that parasympathetic mode where they can turn off and begin to recover, okay? So know the gas tank is what I'm saying. That's something that you've got to be able to know your players and find that out. So reading the gas tank. And as I said, there's some easy modalities that I've pointed out to you that you can use to help them refill the gas tank. I mentioned cherry juice. I've mentioned chocolate milk. Listen, you can make, there are a million ways to hydrate, you know, and staying away from, you know, the Gatorades is a good idea. The sugary energy drinks are killers, right? You know, electrolytes are easy. You can make electrolytes. Hell, YouTube's got it. Anytime my son questions me, he looks it up on YouTube. So I'm sure you guys could look it up on YouTube, anything that I said today, you know? But you could make your own electrolyte pops. So these are all things that you can take care of. All right, moving forward. Results, right? We need to get to results. Results come from then total preparation. So what is total preparation? Total preparation starts with the physical. And so when we talk about the physical, we're talking about training, right? We're talking about the physical training necessary to play the sport. So that would be in the weight room, that would be the conditioning element. That would also be physically what you put in your body, right? The sleep, nutrition, that's part of total preparation. You're responsible for that, right? What's important now is total preparation is the physical. The next element is the technical, right? You're responsible for winning, and you're responsible for the technical aspect of this. I mean, you guys know this as well as I do. What does it take to get somebody to replicate a movement to muscle memory? What is it, 10,000, 10,000 times, right? You got to do it 10,000 times. So if you want me to open up and cross over as a DB, what do I got to do? I got to do 100 times a day, right? What's the math on that? 100 times how many days? 1,000 days, right? Load of work. So let's understand this, right? The technical requires an attention to that. It's not just, we did it for 3 minutes. Hey, why are we fumbling the ball? Well, you did it for 2 minutes. We run. Where's Chip? Is he gone? Is Chip gone? He's already at the bar? Awesome. That's a good offensive coordinator right there. So we run tracks. If you guys go to practice tomorrow, we run tracks every day. We haven't fumbled in 3 years. We haven't. I mean, it's like 400 and something snaps where we haven't fumbled. We run tracks every single day. And he comes to my office, hey, can we get run tracks taken out today? No, we can't. Because we do that every day for ball security purposes. We do it because we're not turning the ball over. So you get what you demand when it comes to the technical. If you want it done, you have to do it, and I threw 10,000, but you guys get the point, right? If you want it done and done it right, you have to do it over and over and over and over it again. The technical. Tactical is your, whatever you're about, right? You know, you're a blitzing team, or you're running the wing T, you know, you're tactical, you know, you're responsible for that. You got to watch film, and, you know, if they're blitzing 11 guys, you've got to figure out how to block them all. I mean, tactical is on you. You know, the players expect you to have a tactical preparation for them. They expect that. So the tactical is about total preparation. I mean, you can build trust, motivate your players, right? You can understand about being demanding and not demeaning. You can understand the things that you need to do relative to performance. But if you don't spend any time on the technical and tactical, we're not done yet. We're not winning, okay? These all matter. These all matter. So total preparation. And then the mental. So the mental preparation. Listen, the brain is a muscle too, okay? You have to condition it as well, okay? It has to be able to be part of your total preparation. So that mental performance piece is absolutely crucial in terms of getting your players in the right mindset, getting them in that right mindset. That's total preparation. So when we talk about these things relative to how we win, that's what's important today. So from a big picture perspective, I want to win every day. I want to win in the relationships that I have with everyone in my family, everybody that I'm with on a day-to-day basis. And I want to win with my football program. And it starts with those things that I've laid out for you. So I hope that gives you a perspective of how important it is to look at this as a people-driven business. It's about people. And hopefully that'll give you that perspective. So I'll open it up. We've got a few minutes. I know you guys want to get there, and everybody was talking about watching basketball. What the hell you want to watch basketball for? But yes, sir.
You have a morning workout every time you play night game. How does that fit into your performance?
Yeah. So the question was, I like to get our players moving during an evening game. And, you know, effectively, when we're talking about performance with our football team, what we like to do is we don't want our guys to not do anything at all as it relates to movement for more than 24 hours. We feel like when we're talking about highly skilled players, there's no routine that they have that keeps them off that long. So we like to keep the routine going. So if it's less than that, we won't work them out. For example, if we had a couple of instances where they were on the West Coast, we had 4 o'clock games. We didn't work them out. We had walkthroughs. But when we have an evening game and it's a longer period of time, we want them to be able to work out, gives them the chance to recover, rest, and then come back and play. It doesn't, for us, our literature and what we've done over the last 6 years, 7 years now, it gives us peak performance. No questions. Awesome. This is a great group. I love y'all.
You said travel with what are run tracks? You say you do run tracks and everything. What is that?
Yeah, so we're working quarterback, running back exchange, and then we're trying to rip that ball loose up in the hole. So it's effectively all the components within your run game. So you get a chance to review all of the different handoffs that you would have in exchanges with the quarterback and the running back. And then we simulate the cuts that we're looking for, pressing, cutting, and then as they make that cut, we're trying to strip the football off those cuts. So we get 3 levels of work in those run tracks. Yes, sir.
When it comes to changing a school's culture, do you believe it's better to incentivize the students with like T-shirts or even stuff like that? Or do you think that there's another way that you can kind of incentivize students to come out because like if they've never had like an off-season workout or anything like that, so it's new to them, they don't understand the purpose of it. Like, what do you think is the best way to get them to, like kind of understand that and get them to come out?
I think it's a great question. It's just, how do you change the culture of a program? And we could probably spend an hour just on changing cultures. But I think when it comes to engagement, because that's really the question you're asking. How do you get engagement? Culture is a kind of a different story because I think there's a lot of different ways. I think in the simplest terms, culture is about focusing on process, right? What are the most important principles within your program? Focusing on process, not outcomes, and process being, what are the traits that you want to build within your program? What are the important traits? Is it attention to detail, right? Is it great attitude, right? That's cultural. But when it comes to engagement, I think it starts with the individuals. I think it starts with when you get one guy who trusts what you're doing and is excited about it, the word spreads. Find the right guy. Engage the right guy. Get him to trust what you're doing, and that's the best way to get engagement to spread. T-shirts will come, but if you're standing there handing out T-shirts, they're going to steal the T-shirts. You know what I mean? Until they trust you. Then they won't touch your T-shirts because they respect you and they take pride in those T-shirts. Make them earn those T-shirts because they've given up something to get those. So engagements is a little bit different than culture, but that would be my answer without, getting too far into it. Yes, sir.
I've been to every one of your clinics. I've seen the whole program kind of change. We talk a lot about the players and the generational differences, and I noticed you got a lot of coaches now that probably have been coaching about a third as long as you are. How much generational differences, and how much have you had to adjust the younger coaches now too? Also, I mean, it's not just players now too, right?
Certainly the coaches are younger than me. I've come to realize that that's happening. You know what it does? It just requires me, which I kind of like the role that I'm in now, and the realization that I'm not calling plays, I'm not coaching with the quarterbacks, but I have a new role that is required of me as the head coach at Notre Dame, and that is spend more time with my staff. And it's exciting, but it's different. And so, yes, it requires more time of me, but it's the difference between spending time in that staff room, talking about 4 vertical versus talking about how do you build trust, with your middle linebacker. Does that make sense? Yeah.
What are some examples of like getting players to buy in, like the economy of the team? Like, specifically, what do you guys do here to get that to happen?
So I think it's important that the first thing that you do is that everything is about making choices. And so how do those choices kind of show themselves? Here's what we want you to do. We want you to do these things. And if you show progress in these areas, we're going to reward you. We're going to give you these opportunities. And so that in itself allows that autonomy to grow. And we feel like you have to back that up. If you say that you're going to do something for somebody, I'll give you an example. We had a defensive lineman who we wanted him to cut some weight. And we told him, if you cut some weight, and if you work on these things, then you're going to find yourself getting some more playing time. And we backed that up. And so that was his choice. He made a choice that he would lose weight and he would work on those things. And once he did, and he saw that that was going to be rewarded, he felt like, well, if I buy in, they're going to be there for me. And so that's what we're talking about in terms of you have another choice. You don't have to lose weight. You can continue to do what you're doing. That's your decision. But I can tell you, it's not going to result in what you want. And so that's how we kind of preface it with each one of those players. And it helps quite a bit in getting some of those guys that are caught maybe in the in-between zone of, second team, third team. It allows them to really decide that they want to move up. It's less about maybe the top line guys, because they've already separated themselves. It's generally with those middle tier guys. Yeah. Take one more question. Yes.
So what is the thing when you have incoming freshmen that you find the most difficult with their integration into what you do? Is there something that we could help develop in them to make the transition easy?
Yeah. So the question is there something that could be done as high school coaches to help with the integration and the transition into college? So it's a difficult question because, we have probably 3, maybe 4 players from this area code here. But if you go on Florida's or Michigan's or Michigan State's roster, they probably have 75% of their players on their roster within 3 hours. So their integration is a little bit different because they can drive home on the weekends. Our guys can't drive home, right? Because they're from last recruiting class was from 28 states. So our integration is a little bit different in that when they come here, they're coming from all over the country. So it's a little bit different than maybe some of the other schools. So what we look for is in the recruiting process, they have to make a choice in coming here. So we vet that out first, that they're coming here clearly understanding that they're moving away and making a choice to come to Notre Dame. But they better have grit. There's going to be some good days and bad days, and you're going to have to fight through those. And it's going to make you better on the end. So if there's one thing that you could do is tell them there's going to be some tough days. Fight through those tough days, because the net on that is going to be a lot of really, really good days. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Great to have you here. We'll see you tomorrow for practice. Thank you.